Okay, Unit 6, Lecture 1B. So besides forcibly removing, besides violence to get rid of the Native Americans, the U.S. government also attempts to legislate the Indian away. An example of this you need to know is the Dawes Act of 1887. This is a nonviolent assault on the Native Americans' traditional way of life. This law abolishes tribal organizations, divides reservations into plots of land to be given to Indian families in ownership. And remember, Indians and settlers have a different idea about land, where Indians use land, not individuals owning it. So it's a new thing for them. All right, and this act would also allow Native Americans to become U.S. citizens for the first time, though many Native Americans did not want to become assimilated or absorbed into American culture, which is what the Dawes Act was about. It was about forcing or coercing the Native American into giving up their cultures, abandoning their traditions, and becoming white Anglo-Americans. All right, so many are going to refuse to accept the American government's offer and continue to live on reservations in very harsh conditions. All right, the reservations are not great places. They're not good land. They're in the middle of nowhere. All right, and it's awful conditions. So they're going to end up remaining dependent on the federal government for things like food and clothing and shelter, and face a bleak future on these reservations. And if we look today, and we will follow some of the Native American legislation and effects of our movement on them, and we'll see is the reservations today are still some of the worst places in the country as far as poverty, alcoholism, and illiteracy and such. Okay, as federal policy succeeds in removing Native Americans from their traditional lands, and Americans continue to fill these western lands, many new states are created in the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountain regions, and by the early 20th century, this is the early 1900s, the map of America, the continental U.S., is how it appears today. Okay, so the 48 states that make up the continental U.S., not Alaska and Hawaii, contiguous U.S., have entered the Union. All right, during this period of time, the eastern United States is also going to go through a great deal of change also. All right, and this is important. You have to follow and know the differences here on immigrants. We're going to see before 1871, according to the SOLs, and here I think most histories again would disagree with the Virginia and U.S. history SOLs. They're going to, the U.S. and Virginia SOLs say 1871. I think most of us would say 1880, but that's okay. 1871, before 1871. Most immigrants to the U.S. come to America from Northern and Western Europe. That's what I want you to know. Old immigrants before 1871 come from Northern and Western Europe. That's important. Old immigrants. All right. Before 1871. These are places like Ireland, Germany, Great Britain, and the Scandinavian countries of Norway and Sweden. After 1871, or the rest of us would say 1880, but after 1871 and World War I, immigration is going to shift, or between 1871 and World War I, immigration is going to shift, and this will be now new immigrants, and the majority of new immigrants are going to come from Southern and Eastern Europe. Places like Italy, Greece, Russia, Poland, Hungary, the Balkan Peninsula, all right. And like earlier immigrants, the new immigrants are going to come to America seeking both political and economic freedom, all right, better lives for their families, economic opportunity, and these are going to be always like the common denominators for immigration. All right, people come here for opportunity, for a better life, whether it's political freedom, religious freedom, or economic opportunity. It's going to be a constant theme in immigration. Okay. Better lives for their family. Okay, so during this period of new immigration after 1871, where they come from Southern and Eastern Europe, immigrants are going to from Europe enter the United States through Ellis Island in New York Harbor, and their first view of America would be the Statue of Liberty. During this period of new immigration, many immigrants are also going to come from Asia, China and Japan, and these immigrants are going to enter through Angel Island.